In this video, we are going to talk about the Coventry of the future. Now, I'm going to bring two perspectives. I'm going to bring in my perspective as a mum, and I'm also going to talk about a perspective towards the future from academic theory. So let's do the mum bit first. I'm a mum of two. I've got a little boy aged 10 and a little girl aged 6. They both were born in Coventry. They're growing up here. They love it. They play football here. This is the city. This is the one city that they would call home. We go traveling all over the world on holidays, and we have links to India, but they always want to come back to Coventry. And I'd like to think about the kind of city I want them to inherit. Now, I also said I'm going to talk about academic theory. Now, there was an academic called St. John Rebillard, and he did a lot of research on Jewish communities sort of at the turn of the last century. And he spoke about how when these communities first came to Britain, it was all about struggles for existence. And we've seen that. How do you make Coventry your home? How do you build resources around you, the infrastructure, places of worship, schools that do curricula that is relevant and pertinent to our identities, hospitals and other services that provide all the resources that a diverse and plural community needs. St. John Rebillard tells us that once you've accomplished your struggles for existence, you then reach a tipping point where it's no longer just about existing, it is now about being equal citizens. Now, I don't know when it comes to the diverse communities in Coventry, we may have, and it's likely that we have already reached that tipping point where we are no longer talking about, right, I need a place of worship to go to. Instead, now we have young people who are saying, we want agency. We want to be part of government. We want to help contribute to the running of this country. When I speak to people who came here in the 60s and the 70s, they said a lot of it was about conforming, about fitting in. Radhika became Rad and Muhammad became Mo. It was about trying to almost hide aspects of what were important to you so that you could fit in. And if this meant you left a little bit of yourself at home, then so be it. When I speak to young people today, they are full of confidence in who they are. They're full of enthusiasm for who they are. And when I ask them, so who are you? It's not just that I am, a Sikh man or I am a young Muslim woman. It's about being a young British Muslim, or it's about being a young British Sikh. It's about celebrating the cultures and the identities that they have inherited from their parents, whether this is Indian or Pakistani or Bangladeshi or Middle Eastern. And it's also about inheriting and celebrating their Britishness. A slightly flippant example is about that I'm often given is like we are like curry on chips. The curry part is our Indianness, the chips are our Britishness. Both are completely innate in who we are. And this video is all about looking to the future. How can we build a Coventry and a Britain where these young people with all their confidence can flourish? And they are confident, when they say we are confident, it's not just about, we are confident to assert who we are. They will do that. But they're also confident and they're also enthusiastic about building this Britain. They're completely committed to it. And I hope that through this video and through listening to the stories that we tell, you can help our young people do just that.
I think that Coventry is a pioneer city in this region, at least, of interfaith. I've seen here things that I've never seen anywhere else. And the work that is being done here, it's things that, as much as I try to engage with different areas, I'm not hearing this kind of voices anywhere else.
I think my predecessor would be quite excited by where we are now, because I think when the cathedral was created, the new cathedral was commissioned and then consecrated in 1962, they were thinking very much about the reconciliation and meeting between different branches of Christianity. And I think they would be amazed to see what happens in the cathedral now. And I think of a couple of examples, just in the last year. They will be surprised to see us hosting iftars on, we've had maybe 4 now, with people coming in and, breaking bread, eating dates in the ruins, and being really surprised that we are able to do that. And I think being moved by the need, but also excited by the reality that post October 7th, we were able to have 200 people gathering for prayers in the cathedral, with prayers led from Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, beautiful singing from Tipat, Sikh, Baha'i, 6 or 7 different faith traditions, as an expression of shared lament and seeking hope. That was astonishing and healing for many of us, feeling just defeated by the awfulness of the world. So I think that they would be quite excited by that, and I hope they would not feel that I had sold short the inheritance of the faith.
I think this is the fundamental idea of Interfaith. As much as this is my building and this is what's done here, it's about sharing.
My predecessors, I think we had the first purpose-built Gurdwara in the city here, and that was Guru Nanak Balgash Gurdwara. And first of all, it's grown, and I think that's often something that's not similar to some faiths where they find their congregation actually shrinking. Ours is massive. I mean, we've had a massive extension building, and if you ever come on Friday to Saturday, Sunday, it is jam-packed all the time. So certainly in terms of bringing people together, not just because of the faith element, but also because of the community element, it brings the community together. And what I really think, I think they'd be very, very pleased and wish us well in our new journey, because especially working with our young people, it's about how our community survives in this city and in this world. And yes, they've got the traditions and culture of an Indian culture, whatever, but it's about how we live in harmony in another country. In our country, we see it as our city. And so things like, for example, health clinics, for example, there's issues that are pressing, say, the health professions, like, for example, TB is on the rise again, particularly within the Asian community. So it's putting on those seminars, for example. It's actually having education for our children so they don't lose the mother tongue, so that they can actually converse with their grandparents and whatever. It's also about acknowledging our young people and fighting, and eventually now getting awards like GCSEs and A-levels in our languages, which is so important, because language is also something that keeps the community and the faith alive. And I think the growth in our young people that have actually taken on Sikhism as well, I think is exponential. It really is, and okay, it might be because of certain things that happen politically that happen, but alongside that is, I think, the thing about working together with everybody alongside, and it's not actually losing those tenets of Sikhism, which I think is so important. And I think certainly in terms of, we are a very wealthy community as well. We are a very wealthy community, and it's about how we distribute that wealth as well, and do seva for our fellow people, regardless of which faith they come from. Yeah, the langar is a wonderful thing. I mean, we have langar aid that actually gives homeless people food, 5-7 days a week kind of thing. And it's just this thing, and it's always going to be there. I'm very hopeful for the future.
I think when you think about seva and langar, and what that means to the people who actually need, and the food bank, it's sort of depressing in the sense that there is that kind of need. But it's actually how do people of belief and maybe no belief actually come together in times of distress or danger, that we actually look after one another.
One of the interesting things is the way that the society politically has begun to rely upon interventions from faith groups to provide things which arguably should be being provided as part of our societal infrastructure anyway, but that's a whole other area.
Well,
it's great that it brings us together in shared provision for those who are poor and in need, but actually...
And the greatest expression of that was during COVID. Because during COVID, you know, from my belief and experience, the ways that the different faith communities cooperated with one another, irrespective of who was our neighbour, we looked after them. The way that we made sure that food or clothing or any other kind of medicine that were needed, didn't matter who it was. We just went out there and did it. And that was irrespective of the different faiths that we come from. And actually we cooperated and sort of made things effectively used. And I think the more that we can take that into the future, and more expressions of where different people of different beliefs can hold on to their belief, but also cooperate and support one another to make the world a little bit more better for everyone. It's looking beyond the identity of a faith or a religion. It's looking at the person, the individual, the soul, the atma, the atom, and
energy.
saying, you know, that energy is looking at, we need to support that. And, you know, I think the more that we can do that, not just for one human being to another human being, but also towards nature, towards animals, towards creatures, the better it is. Because actually we can then make the best use and the most precious.
It would be so good if other people, leaders of the world, whoever these leaders are, would listen to this. It's a very simple message, but it's just so complicated.
I think it's the different faith leaders who at the local level, so in Coventry, you know, we need to do that, and we need to actually do that much more than what we're doing. So from the legacies of Christopher Lamb and Father Berry, you know, from their small steps that reached out to us, you know, obviously we hope that we can be reaching out to the future and generations to actually be brave, be courageous.
Absolutely.
The world of interfaith is beautiful. It helps to grow one's own faith, I believe. And by working together with people of different faiths, you can actually have a bigger impact.
Absolutely. Oh, completely.
So that's something that we could all work towards.
What would Coventry of the future look like? I'm going to play a little bit of a game here, and instead of talking about the future, I'm going to talk about the past. And I'm going to take you to 1940, the Coventry Blitz. You've heard Reverend John speak about it in the video briefly. Coventry was bombed by the Luftwaffe. We're going to talk about what Provost Harvard, the then Dean of the Cathedral, what did he do and say? Now, he was really unpopular because of what he said, because what he did was, the day after the bombing, 14th November 1940, there was destruction all around, and he said, "Father, we must forgive," as a means of exhorting the people around him who were sad, who were damaged by what they had experienced, who were traumatized. But he reminded them to forgive. And that's very difficult. And he was really unpopular. And then a month later, he goes on to, one of the Christmas bulletins on radio, and he says the same thing. We must forgive. And to me, and as far as I'm concerned, he set the tone for Coventry to become a city of peace, a city of reconciliation back then in 1940. And that's a legacy that we have continued to run with. Now, as an academic, I will also say this is not an unproblematic legacy. Coventry is home to companies that build arms that then go into wars all over the world, that are used in wars. So it's not an unproblematic legacy. Nevertheless, as a city, it is so obvious that we are welcoming. It is so obvious that we live together. We've got peace walks. We've got the country's preeminent peace studies centre here at Coventry University, the Centre for Peace and Security, where I work, where I'm very proud to work. My challenge to you is consolidate your thinking, come together with your friends and your family to talk about peace. Peace in Coventry, peace in Britain, and peace globally.